Hi Stampers, this is Lisa. Welcome back to my studio. My name is Lisa. I'm with Queen Bee Creations and I go live right here on Facebook every Monday at 2:30 Mountain Time. And today we're going to be making a fun kind of crisscross card. I'm not sure what the name of it is, but it's this really fun fold card that does a crisscross, and it looks kind of complicated. It's not. Like I said, I try to pull things that are, something everybody can do. And this is the card we're making today, just in different designer series paper, because I also like to show you guys a little bit of something different. And here it is. And it's really pretty simple. It just kind of interlocks. So it's two pieces, and then this one is slit up from the bottom here and down from the top over here. Then I've got the reverse going on over here, because this one was at the bottom, this one's at the top. And because this was at the top, this is at the bottom. And then that's how it's going to go together. It's just going to, you kind of twist it a little, and you slide these two together, and then we slide these two together. And that's what makes our crisscross. And then this is a little pop-up in the middle. So we're going to start out from the very beginning. I started out with just one piece of 8.5 by 11 cardstock. I'm going to bring in my paper trimmer, and we're going to cut this in half, just like as if we were doing a card base. So because this is 11, I'm going to go 5.5. And then we're going to score them, and I could go ahead and score them in here at the 2 1/8, which is going to be halfway between the 2 and the 2 1/4. But I'm actually going to do it on my Simply Scored tool. I love this thing. I find it to be way more exact because I tend to shift a little bit. I know it's a user error, but this one I'm just more exact with. We have our stylus tool that comes with it, and there's two ends. There's a fat end that will ride on top, which is perfect for designer series papers, and then there's a smaller one that goes down into the groove if you want something a little deeper. So I'm going to come in at 2 1/8, which is this first little mark. Then I'm going to go 4 1/4. And then I need to go over 2 1/8, and rather than do the math, I'm just going to flip it and do 2 1/8 this way. It's just simpler. Like I said, I'm trying to make things easy. So we're just doing 2 1/8, 4 1/4, rotate, and then 2 1/8 again. Okay, so there's our two bases. And then I brought in some strips of designer series paper. And these are all 2 inches wide. And I just chose a designer series paper. Any pack kind of matches. Like this was our Tidings of Christmas designer series paper. This is a 6 by 6 paper. It's in our annual catalog. See, there's a little bit of Christmas in our annual, and so that's this paper right here. And so any 4 of those are going to match together really well. And then I just chose one of the colors that was in it, the cherry cobbler. That's my base. So very simple. But this time we're using this designer series paper, which is out of our holiday catalog. And so there are 6 designs. And of course they're all double-sided. And I could have used either one or a mix of the two. And this is, like I said, in the mini catalog. This is on page 17. It's this paper down here. If you're ever wondering about colors and you want to know what matches, just take a look at the back of the designer series paper pack, and it's going to tell you all the colors that are involved in there. Now these are going to be layers onto each little strip. And so because this is 5 1/2, and this was 2 1/8, so I made this 2, so I went 1/8 smaller. So I want 1/8 smaller than 5 1/2. Again, I'm going to bring in my trimmer, and I'm using this side because this is where I stuck my little cheat sheet. This actually is a little piece of paper off of a paper tape measure from IKEA. And I just glued this on here because I felt when I stuck my paper in here, I kind of lost my little marks. This just helps me find them. I lined it up as exact as I could, but at least if I know if I'm over here at 5.5, you know, I can find my exact mark in the middle down here for my 5 3/8. And this kind of lets me know I'm in the right spot. So if you ever feel like you need a little bit of extra help, I suggest looking at a fabric store. I know they make these little miniature tape measures that are actually adhesive on the back to go on a sewing machine. And then my husband says they sell them at the hardware store. But like I said, I picked this up for free at IKEA. So just anywhere you can find something, anything that gives you some extra help, I always encourage. And so, like I said, this is my measurement down here. Another thing that I did with my paper trimmer is I stuck a strip of Terran tape down the back so that my very old eyes could read the numbers along here. It was clear, and then the numbers are on there, and yes, it's white on the bottom, but I just felt when I put the Terran tape behind that, I could read this a lot better. So like I said, we're going to take all of these and we're going to cut them at that 5 3/8. And because it's designer series paper and our new trimmer has that much bigger blade, I can actually cut all 3 at once. Then I'm just going to find an assortment that I like. And we could mix and match and move these around. But I basically want the 2 on the outsides to match and the 2 on the insides to match. And then I want the one that's in front to be a little bit of contrast from the one that's in the back. Again, not super necessary. That's just how I came up with it, and you guys are always asking, so that's my tip. Now all I need to do is adhere them on, and because I have a 1/8 inch border, it's pretty small, so I'm going to use liquid glue so that I have my wiggle room, and I don't need very much. I'm making sure to try to get it to the edges, but not use too much. If you use too much on a liquid glue, it kind of has a tendency to warp the paper a little, and we don't want to do that. And this paper does not have a direction to it, so you might want to check when you're doing this that you are making sure that there's no, you know, animals standing upright or flowers that grow in a certain direction. These ones just are kind of random, so I'm okay with that, but just something you want to keep an eye on. Put that on the wrong side, didn't I? Okay. We'll cut a new one of those. Okay, now this is a water-based glue, so it will kind of rub off. If it is a little sticky in areas where you don't want it to be, we have what we call an adhesive remover that you can use to remove that. It's just a little rubber eraser. And you would just bring this in and rub it on any leftover glue or Stampin' Seal, snail strip, anything that's adhesive that might be sticky. This takes it off and removes any sticky. I actually even picked this up at the dollar store, so well worth $1. This one's ready to fold. Now, like I said, what I wanted to do was fold this in reverse of what this one is, and then we're going to score it in reverse. But we're also going to cut a circle out of the middle so we can see our sentiment that is in here on this little bracket. So why don't we do that? I'm going to bring in our layering circles dies. Looks like this, the widest part comes out at 3 1/4, so this is probably a 3 1/8 circle. This one comes over to the 3, so I guess just past, this is probably 2 3/4. And so I'm going to cut them both out of a coordinating paper. And this is the new cut and emboss machine. I'm going to come in with plate number 1, plate number 2, and then 2 of plate number 3. And then I'm going to come back with the smaller one and just center it. Now, if you felt brave, you can run the two of them through together. It kind of just barely fits, and last time I did it, it fit, but I got little nicks if I wasn't exactly on center on my dies, so I'm not doing that today. We know how being on camera makes things a little more fussy. And of course, on things like this, looking straight down from the top gives you your better placement. And then I'll have this piece to use on another card. And then I have my frame. And that frame is going to go right on the front. And because this was the circle that I used to cut out the middle, this is what I'm going to use to cut out the hole. So I'm using the same die and lining it up in the center. So again, liquid glue, so I have my wiggle room. Not very much, we don't want it to ooze out an edge. Okay, now it's not going to matter if I come down from the top or, up from the bottom. On this side, as long as I'm doing the opposite over here and then the opposite over here. So I have to decide what direction I'm going. So say I'm going to come down from the top on this side. Oh, and let's bring it down here where I can measure. So again, I'm using these measurements on here, and because this is 5.5 and I want to come halfway, it's going to come down to 2 3/4. And I'm going to use the little line on the side, and I'm going to line that line up with the line on my clear ruler. So that's where I know that I'm at the right spot to stop. So because that came down from the top, I want this one up from the bottom. So right on the score line, up to 2 3/4. So I have a top and a bottom. Now for this one, I want to do the reverse. So because this is on top, this on the bottom, up to 2 3/4. Then I'm going to do the other side because again, this is bottom, this will be top, down to 2 3/4. So those are done. Now we just need to do our sentiment that's going to go in the middle. Yeah, step by step is the way to do this. And if you try to think of it, on a broad scale and try to just overwhelm yourself, it can seem intimidating. But if we break it down step by step and go very slowly and methodically, it makes sense. It's 3/4 inch wide, and it's scored at 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, 4, and then cut off at 4.5. With the scoring, we're making sure that it's lined up on the sides, so it's good and square. And then when I go to adhere this one, I'm going to fold that in, and then this in, and then make it square. So now I know this goes both ways and folds completely flat. Then when I take this one and put it on there. Again, I'm using some strong adhesive. This is our Stampin' Seal Plus, and I'm putting more on it than normal because it's going to get a lot of movement. And then I've got it right butted up against the line, but not in it. I wanted a little bit of clearance room. Again, anytime there's excess adhesive, just go ahead and rub it off. So that's going to be our middle piece. Now, I needed a little bracket, so I'm just going to take a piece that's going to be 2 inch by 3/4, scored in half. Now you can see that I did kind of the L bracket up the side. And this one. Now when I go ahead and adhere this, I only want adhesive on the one side, but I want my seam to be up the middle, I want my circle to be in the middle of the hole. So I want this right there. With it flat, it's going to be centered. Okay? So if we could see through this, we would know that this is my L bracket, And we're going to put adhesive here, and then I'm going to center this in there. And the fact that it's not adhered on this side is what's going to allow it to pop. Now all we need to do is take that slit over there, and before it's all the way down, the best way is to do it at kind of a crisscross and then line up this one. Okay, so once I've got them both kind of a little in there, then I can straighten it out and it's ready to go. And see, my circle is smack in the middle, and then it can be displayed for all to see that way. I'm going to use our peaceful deer just because I'm going to use this sentiment. I mean, you can use any sentiment you like that's small enough to fit in the middle there. I line it up on the grid paper to make sure that I'm straight. And then this is Evening Evergreen, which is this green here. Tap, tap, tap. You don't want to press too hard because the firm foam is not the same as the linen. They don't need as much pressure, because if you give it too much pressure, you're going to get ink around the outside edge. Okay, now some of you are looking at it and going, okay, that's bigger than our average card, and you're right, it is. But I was able to find an envelope to fit it. I was down at one of our big box stores, and I found just some envelopes that are 5 3/4 by 8 3/4, which is perfect for this half sheet of 8.5 by 11. So I'm sure there's some computer reason why they're this size. But another good idea is when you go down to any of your stores that have a card display, I go down to whatever store has cards and ask them if they have extra envelopes, because they always sell more cards than they sell envelopes. I don't know why. They always start out with the same number, but if you can catch the gal who does the refreshing of the cards, because that's a merchandiser, she doesn't work for the store. If you can catch her on a day she's in there replenishing all of the cards, you can ask her if she has extra envelopes, and they will often give them away. Now it's a little bigger than a standard envelope, so it'll probably take a little bit of extra postage, but it will mail. And then when they receive it, of course, it pops open for display and can sit on their counter. And then if you wanted to, you could also add some white back here to write your message. But what do you think? Is this something you guys are going to give it a try? Thank you for being my wonderful customers and meeting me here each and every Monday. And I do appreciate your orders. The new mini catalog is out. This is our holiday catalog. This is going to have fall, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, you know, get you through those holidays. Any questions whatsoever, please let me know. Otherwise, I will see you right back here next Monday. Bye.